What you're about to hear explains something almost nobody dares to say out loud, yet everyone can feel happening in real time. Women keep asking where the good men went, why dating feels impossible now, why pursuit died out, why romance vanished, why nobody is trying anymore. But the truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable than anyone wants to admit. Women didn't stop being hard to get. They stopped being the kind of women men wanted to chase in the first place. For decades, women were the mystery of the dating world. They were selective, private, intentional. They chose carefully who got their time, who got their attention, who got to see even pieces of their personal world. Men chased because something valuable was behind that distance. Men invested because access meant something. Attraction grew not from exposure, but from discovery. Slow, gradual, earned. Then everything changed. A generation of women stepped into a world where visibility became a form of currency, where attention became a commodity, where every part of their lives could be showcased, captured, edited, filtered, and broadcasted to an audience of strangers. And the moment they did that, something ancient and fundamental in male psychology snapped. Men used to chase because they didn't know everything. Because a woman revealed herself little by little, revealing only enough to spark curiosity, not kill it. Today, men know everything before they even speak to her. They know her opinions, her vacations, her friendships, her routines, her outfits, her nightlife, her drama, her exes, her emotional breakdowns, her inspirational quotes. They've seen her body from angles her own husband wouldn't see until year 5 of marriage. And they saw all of it before ever hearing her voice. Mystery died. Discovery died. Scarcity died. And with it died the desire to pursue. Men aren't confused by accident. They're confused because the rules flipped upside down. Women became accessible in every way except the one that matters. Their lives became public exhibitions. Their attractiveness became mass distributed. Their identity became a performance delivered to anyone with a phone. And suddenly what used to feel special became ordinary. What used to feel valuable became replaceable. What used to feel rare became abundant. Abundance kills desire. Not metaphorically, literally. A woman used to be someone you had to meet to know, someone you had to talk to in order to understand, someone you had to pursue to uncover her layers. Now, she is accessible to everyone simultaneously. And when she is accessible to all, she is special to none. But this transformation didn't happen in silence. It happened while women were celebrating how many likes they got, how many followers they collected, how many matches they received, how much attention they could generate. They believed this attention meant they were desirable. They believed visibility meant power. They believed more access would bring better suitors. They didn't realize that the very thing they were amplifying was dissolving the reason men pursue in the first place. A woman who shows everything isn't intriguing. A woman who broadcasts everything isn't mysterious. A woman who's accessible to thousands isn't scarce. And when scarcity dies, value drops. Not because she's unworthy, but because the human brain is hardwired to devalue what is abundant. Men today aren't refusing to pursue because they're lazy or afraid of rejection. They're refusing to pursue because there is nothing left to pursue, nothing left to discover, nothing left to earn, nothing left that feels exclusive or meaningful. Modern women confuse attention with attraction, but the two are not the same, and they never were. Men will look at anything, they will follow anything, they will like anything, but they only pursue rarity. They only invest in mystery. They only commit to what feels selective, valuable, and emotionally safe,
not something performing for an endless audience. And women today have made themselves impossibly visible, but shockingly unavailable in the ways that matter. Their bodies are online, but their souls are walled off. Their personalities are public, but their standards are inconsistent. Their energy is shared with thousands, but their intimacy is withheld. Their life is everywhere, and yet nowhere meaningful. This is why men stopped pursuing, not because women became stronger or bolder or more empowered. Men stopped pursuing because women abandoned the one thing that made being pursued exciting: the balance between reveal and conceal, the slow burn, the selective openness, the depth behind the silence, the mystery that made a man want to work for something real. Now everything is instant, immediate, shallow, visible. And the very abundance meant to attract men ended up repelling them. Women didn't stop being hard to get. They stopped being the kind of women men want to get. And this shift rewired the entire dating landscape in a way no one was prepared for. A shift that changed how men think, how they desire, how they evaluate, and how they decide whether a woman is worth pursuing at all. And what happened next is even more shocking, because once this transformation took place, a new type of woman emerged. One who became not just easy to access, but difficult to want.
What happened next is what nobody was prepared for. Women thought they were just updating the game, modernizing flirting, making dating more efficient, more exciting, more quote-unquote empowered. But they didn't realize they weren't just changing the rules. They were burning the entire rulebook that made attraction work in the first place. Something essential snapped in the male brain, and once it broke, it did not snap back. Men started to notice patterns they couldn't unsee. A woman would complain on social media that men no longer approach, that no one courts anymore, that chivalry is dead. Then you'd look at her profile. Thousands of followers, dozens of bikini photos, every angle of her body online, every night out documented, every argument turned into a story, every emotion turned into content. And she still expected a man to feel special just for getting her attention. But how can a man feel special when he can see, with his own eyes, that he's not the only one watching? Men watched women turn their lives into a performance. The dinner date was no longer two people at a table. It was a backdrop for content. The trip was no longer a memory. It was a photo shoot. The gym wasn't about health. It was a stage for validation. Men realized they weren't being invited into a life. They were being invited into a brand. A man sits across from her at dinner and sees her phone face up. Notifications popping nonstop. DMs from strangers. Comments flooding in. Likes pouring on a picture she posted in the car on the way there. She smiles at the screen more than she smiles at him. And she doesn't understand why he feels no desire to fight for her attention. From her perspective, she is in high demand. From his perspective, she is public property. In the old world, if a man pursued a woman, he knew she wasn't constantly entertaining 100 other men in parallel. Options existed, yes, but they were limited by geography, time, and reality. Today, a man who tries to approach a woman knows he is stepping into an arena he cannot see, competing with men he will never meet, losing to algorithms he cannot fight. She complains that men do not chase, but everything about her life screams that she is not looking for connection. She is looking for an audience. That is the shift men began to feel, but could not always articulate. Women stopped behaving like potential partners and started behaving like attention hubs. They were emotionally exhausted, but still posting. Spiritually empty, but still smiling for the camera. Lonely, but never alone. Because 100 invisible men were in their pocket at any given moment, ready to send the message the moment they felt bored. And men, especially those who remember a world before all this, began asking themselves one simple question. Why would I invest deeply into a woman who is permanently half available to everyone else? This is where hard to get morphed into something much darker. Hard to get used to means she was selective, slow, cautious with her time and body because she valued herself. It created a sense that if she chose you, it meant something. You were not just another face in the crowd. You were one of the few. Difficult to want is different. Difficult to want means everything is visible and none of it inspires respect. It means you can see her life, but you do not want to enter it. It means you are not afraid of rejection. You are afraid of wasting your time on someone whose highest loyalty isn't to a man, a relationship, or a future family, but to her own image and the strangers consuming it. A man looks at her social media and sees clues she thinks are powerful, which scream danger to him. The constant need for validation, the endless thirst for external approval, the subtle contempt for men in her captions and jokes, the bragging about leaving guys on red, the posts about how no one is ever good enough, the public shaming of exes, the oversharing of every feeling, the way she weaponizes attention to feel alive.
Once, a man would see a beautiful woman and think, I want to earn the right to know her. Today, he sees a beautiful woman and thinks, I already know too much. The chase required imagination. It required curiosity. It required room for fantasy. It required an unknown. When she shows everything about herself to everyone before he even meets her, there is no unknown left. There is only volume, noise, data. And that data is often ugly. Men are not just looking at her photos. They are reading her mind in real time through her posts, her comments, her stories. They see how she talks about relationships. They see how she talks about men. They see how she treats disagreement. They see if she mocks people, if she plays victim, if she thrives on drama. They see if her life is grounded in reality or built on a rotating cycle of trips, clubs, selfies, and quotes about how she deserves everything while giving nothing. This is where attraction dies before it has a chance to be born. Because it is not that modern women are unattractive. Many are physically stunning. Many work out, eat well, dress well, polish every detail of their appearance. But appearance no longer stands alone. It comes attached to a visible pattern of behavior, and that behavior is what turns men off. It is not the body, it is the broadcast. Not the beauty, the performance. Not the looks, the lifestyle that comes with them. And men, especially men with options, quietly walk away. They stop approaching in bars because they assume every interaction will be posted somewhere. They stop writing long messages because they assume they are one of dozens in her inbox. They stop investing in conversation because she is half distracted by the next notification. They stop chasing because the prize no longer feels like a woman building a life. It feels like a woman building a following. Meanwhile, women are genuinely confused. They feel more visible than ever, more complimented than ever, more desired than ever in surface-level ways. Their comments are full of fire emojis. Their DMs are full of propositions. Their feeds are full of likes. But when it comes to real pursuit, real intention, real commitment, real men, everything is suddenly quiet. They mistake noise for quality. They mistake volume for value. They mistake being flooded with low-effort attention for being genuinely wanted. And men are on the other side, silently thinking, you are not hard to get, you are just hard to take seriously. This is the cruel irony of the modern dating market. Women have never had more options, yet feel less chosen. Men have never had more access, yet feel less inspired. Women amped up their visibility, thinking it would make them irresistible. Instead, it made them forgettable. Men watched the transformation and adjusted. They did not write essays about it. They did not make long speeches. They simply stopped playing. They opted out of competing for women who belonged to an audience. They opted out of proving their worth to someone whose self-image is constantly fed by strangers. They opted out of chasing what does not feel like a partner, but a performer. And under all of this lies one uncomfortable pattern. When a woman spreads her attention to 1,000 men, she loses the ability to give it deeply to one. And when a man sees that, he loses the urge to offer that depth in the first place. This is how women stopped being hard to get and became difficult to want. Not because they raised their standards too high, not because they became too successful, not because men are intimidated by strong women, but because somewhere along the way they traded depth for exposure, mystery for display, substance for spectacle. And what comes next is even more brutal, because once men collectively felt this shift, they did something women never expected them to do. They stopped trying to win them back.
What happened next is the part nobody predicted. Women expected men to adapt, to try harder, to compete, to rise to the new standards created by hypervisibility and constant attention. They assumed men would fight for their validation just as fiercely as strangers did in their comment sections. They assumed men would work twice as hard to stand out among their endless digital admirers. But men didn't rise. They retreated. Quietly, calmly. Without drama, without loud announcements, men simply began to step back. Not because they hated women, not because they were angry or bitter, but because something inside them finally broke. The part of a man that chases, invests, and pursues can only exist when there is a possibility of reward. Not in likes, not in attention, not in access, but in intimacy, connection, exclusivity, and emotional safety. And when those things disappeared from modern womanhood, so did men's motivation. Men didn't stop chasing because women became too strong. They stopped chasing because women became unchaseable. A man cannot pursue what does not feel anchored, grounded, or selective. He cannot chase someone who is already everywhere. He cannot offer exclusivity to someone who treats her attention like confetti thrown at strangers. He cannot give his focus to someone who splits hers across platforms and followers. Women misread this silence as men becoming weak, depressed, immature, or emotionally unavailable. But the truth is far simpler. Men didn't lose their desire to pursue. They lost their reason. When everything about a woman's life is public, pursuit becomes redundant. When every part of her identity is curated, pursuit becomes artificial. When she belongs to the digital crowd, pursuit becomes meaningless. So men started choosing something women never expected: peace. And peace to a man is not found in a woman whose entire sense of self depends on the opinions of strangers. Peace is not found in someone who turns every argument into a story for her followers. Peace is not found in someone who is constantly communicating with the world, but rarely with the man sitting next to her. Peace is not found in someone whose identity is built on validation rather than values. Women expected competition. Men chose withdrawal. Women expected effort. Men chose indifference. Women expected harder pursuit. Men realized there was nothing worth pursuing. This is why men today seem emotionally detached, not because they are incapable of connection, but because they are tired of connecting with someone who is already connected to everyone else. They are tired of being one voice in a chorus of DMs. They are tired of trying to matter to someone who is addicted to mattering to strangers. They are tired of pouring into someone who leaks her energy publicly, constantly, and compulsively. And here lies the most brutal truth of all. Men want women who belong to themselves, not to the internet. Not to followers, not to algorithms, not to the dopamine loop of constant validation, not to the performance of a lifestyle that isn't real. Modern women didn't just lose mystery, they lost inner life.
They turned their souls inside out and broadcasted the pieces, believing that exposure creates connection, when in reality, exposure kills connection.
Men started noticing something else too. Women who posted the most, who exposed the most, who performed the most, were often the least emotionally available in real life. They were present physically, but mentally elsewhere. They were beautiful, but unreachable. They were confident on camera and insecure in person. They were surrounded by admirers, but starved for actual intimacy. They were empowered online and exhausted offline. And men realized that if a woman's entire value rests on what she broadcasts, then there is no room for who she truly is, or who she could be with someone real. This is where desire collapses. Not because she is unattractive, but because she is ungrounded. Not because she has options, but because she worships those options. Not because she is independent, but because she is emotionally unavailable in the one way that matters: depth. A woman cannot be difficult to access and easy to want, but she also cannot be easy to access and difficult to want. Both extremes kill attraction, and modern women chose the second extreme without realizing it. Men looked at this new dating landscape and instinctively understood what it meant. The gap between attention and intimacy had become too wide to cross, so they stopped chasing, stopped initiating, stopped competing, stopped hoping that the woman they saw online had a deeper self beneath the surface. Most painfully of all, they stopped believing that modern dating could produce something meaningful. And what happened when men abandoned the chase? Women started to panic, because now the same women who rejected dozens of men a week in their 20s are in their 30s and 40s asking why nobody tries anymore. The same women who once drowned in attention are now drowning in silence. The same women who once believed they could always do better now wonder if they can get anyone at all. The same women who once believed men were replaceable now feel like the ones being replaced. But here is the truth they're terrified to face. Men didn't disappear. They just became selective again. Selective about their peace. Selective about their time. Selective about who they give emotional effort to. Selective about who they build a family with. Selective about who they trust with their heart. Women thought visibility created desirability, but men desire what is rare, not what is everywhere. And in the end, this is the tragedy of the modern dating market. Women destroyed the very mechanism that once made them irresistible. They traded mystery for exposure, depth for attention, intimacy for performance, value for abundance, and connection for followers. And once you give yourself away to everyone, there is nothing left for someone. That is why women didn't just stop being hard to get, they became difficult to want. And the saddest part of all? Most of them won't understand what happened until it's too late.